And greetings, everyone. Welcome to Astral Perceptions, a show dedicated to examining the outer fringes of our reality and bringing them to the forefront of our awareness. I'm your host, Mark Johnson, and you'll have to excuse me. It's very early in the AM for me. I'm recording this on Wednesday, the 28th, about 5:30 in the morning. Why? Because I can't sleep. Uh, this is going to be a special edition show today. I don't have a guest. I'm here to talk about a very personal and sensitive subject. I've been feeling the need to share this for a while, the last couple of weeks, but I needed to get to the right place in order to talk about it. Because today we're going to talk about death and dying and the grief process. The reason I want to talk about this is, as some of you who know me already know, my wife died suddenly back on December 2nd from a massive stroke. uh, Totally unexpected. She was only 53 years old. I'm going to do my best to hold it together during this show. If you see some jump cuts, it's because I needed a moment. And I wanted to talk about it because I've experienced death before. My identical twin brother died about over 6 years ago. And at that time, he was one of the closest people I was ever to in the whole world, being my identical twin. And I took it hard. I had a problem and kind of checked out of life for about a year. That was a different situation. With my wife, we were together, married for 17 years, together well over 20. We were friends before we got married, best friends. Uh, I think that really helps in a relationship, that you take the time to get to know somebody and become really close and friends before getting married. Um, a lesson I would have learned in my past. I was married before. I won't go into that. But with my wife, Sherry, she was the love of my life. And I've learned so much in all of my time being with her. And so when you suffer, excuse me, a loss like this, it really, I'm going to tell you right now, for those of you who have not experienced it, it's a gut punch, and you honestly don't know how to feel. I've gone through the entire range of emotions, from not feeling anything at all to numbness to feeling intense sadness, bursts of crying, and anger, anger at why this happened. And I want to blame somebody. And I can blame people. It's not going to bring her back. Um, it's a very hard reality to face. And you learn quickly in this process to be very humble, um, because you realize that as a person, you have very little control over life. Life is going to happen, and it will do whatever it's going to do, it will unfold however it's meant to unfold, whether you like it or not. In a lot of cases, it is, even though it sucks at the time, and trust me, it sucks, the lessons that you learn from it are very important for the rest of your life. Now, I'm now alone in my very late 50s. Hate to give my age away, but I don't care anymore. And I still hopefully have many, many years left. And now I have many, many years of learning how to be alone again. I really haven't been alone, living on my own, in over 26 years. So this is going to be new territory for me. Some people can handle the solitude and be alone. Others, when you get so used to it, have trouble with it. Me, I'm on the fence that I can't guess how I'm going to react. And I try to look at all of this from a spiritual perspective. And it's something I've always talked about on this show, looking at things from a pure spiritual perspective, trying not to dwell on the negative. And it's it's hard. It's really hard. Again, the emotions play with you, the fears play with you, the what ifs for the future. I have a lot of what ifs. I have a lot of arrangements to take care of. I've had a lot that I've already had to take care of. It's been coming up on almost a month now that this has happened. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my wife was only 53 years old. And I'll tell the story. I don't mind. We were literally that Wednesday night just lying in bed, lights on. She's watching TV. She watches her show. I watch something on an iPad, and we are there together. And we're talking, joking around. She's like, take her cold feet and press them up against me just to get at me. And I'd smack her and, just general goofing around. And then we heard the cat was yelling at the back door wanting in. So she said, oh, the cat wants in. So I got up, let the cat in, came back in, lied in bed, not knowing those were going to be the last words she ever said to me. Because a few minutes later, through my headphones, I heard this moaning. I took my headphones off and looked at her, and she was doing this strange moaning, and I didn't understand what was going on. And I even stupidly asked, what are you doing? I thought she was doing something with the dog that lays on the side of the bed. And she kept doing it. So I leaned up and looked over at her, and her face was contorted, and she was moving one arm and making these noises. And for a split second, it was pure disbelief on my end. Couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. And I actually said to her, please tell me you're joking. And she kept doing it. And then I saw her face and I went, oh my God. I knew exactly what was happening. Called 911. Typical of my wife Sherry's fashion. I said I was calling 911 and she was waving an arm at me to say, don't call, don't call. And that's typical of her. She was conscious, she could comprehend, she just couldn't speak. And one side of her body was paralyzed. But I called 911 and it took about 20 minutes for the emergency services to show up. In the meantime, she kept trying to get out of bed and I wouldn't let her. Um, and she just was fighting the whole time. She was fighting. She knew something was wrong. She didn't fully understand it. She could comprehend me and respond to me. So they transported her to the local hospital here. And when they took her out of the ambulance, I was standing there and I said, Sherry, I'm here. Just so you know, can you hear me? And she raised an arm to indicate that she could hear me. And they took her in. Then they ran some tests. They could tell right away she had a stroke. They brought her in the stroke unit. They gave her a sedative and then they gave her a shot. I forget the name of it. It starts with a T. That's supposed to break up the clot. Well, in hindsight, what I think happened based on the medical records is she had more than one clot, or it was a big clot that when they gave it to her, it ravaged her system. It broke the other clots free, and they went right to the brain, blocked the carotid arteries, choked off the blood supply, and effectively it was brain death. Now, that's hard to hear. This story is hard, I know, for a lot of people to hear. It's very personal. It's I'm trying to keep the details respectful, but it was a traumatic experience. I mean, I had called her family. They came up to the hospital. They were there when this all happened. She had to be life flighted to a major trauma center that specialized in this. So everything happened very quickly and by the book. And I'm going to say, for the doctors, for the hospitals, they responded quickly. They worked their asses off. They did a great job, and there was no way in hell anybody could have seen this coming. So it took a day or two for them to finish running all their tests before they officially declared death. But we knew already she was gone because they had already run the brain scans and showed that there was the blockages were here. I could see the blockages in the image, and there was nothing going on up here. So they had already invented her. And the one good thing to come out of all of this is she was an organ donor. So she helped a lot of people. She donated her kidneys, her liver, and even her lungs. For someone of her age, they were amazed at how great her lungs were. But then she was always active, working out, not only at the gym, doing Muay Thai. This is a very active person. And she was priding herself on being active. She loved it, which really is one of the questions I have on how did somebody who was so active get blood clots, massive blood clots that would cause this? Um, I have my suspicions, and I'm going to keep that to myself because it's not going to do anybody any good. It's too hot of a debate right now. And even if I could prove it, there's nothing I can do about it. And this is humbling when you feel powerless. And you have to take that step back. Tell yourself it's okay to be powerless. It's okay to not be able to do much of anything about it. It happened. It's life. Life sucks occasionally, um, but it's not all meant to be, you know, tea and roses, whatever you expression you want to use. This is, and it's hard. It's a hard lesson to learn. It's a hard experience to go through. Something I have said many times before, and I still truly believe this, is we are here to go through these experiences, the good and the bad. That's what life is about. People have pondered forever what the meaning of life is. I'll tell you what the meaning of life is. This is what I have learned is that this earthly plane we inhabit is a school. We come here specifically to learn life lessons. We come here to work out, balance out past karma, from past lives, but to learn specific lessons and also simply to have experiences that we can't have unless it's in the physical. And this type of loss is one of those. I know people who have gone through many traumatic experiences, everything from accidents to abuse. and or people who have suffered from cancer. My my sister-in-law's boyfriend lost his wife after a very long battle of cancer. That takes a toll on somebody. And people can sit there and go, why would God allow this? Why should why do we have to do this? Why are we experiencing it? Well, because we need to experience it. And whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, that's what this life is about. We experience incredible horrors, incredible frustrations. We make incredible mistakes. Uh, and that's what we have our whole lives to figure out. And I also believe that we leave this life when we're supposed to, when we've accomplished what we came to, then we're called home. And even in the act of leaving, the spirit is accomplishing a couple of different things. Not only they've accomplished their mission here on earth, but they are helping those who are left behind experience the feelings of the pain, the grief, the sadness, and learning how to move on. Um, and it's no fun. It's absolutely no fun, but it's part of why we're here. It's something that will help define us later on down the road. I learned a lot after my brother's death. And my father's. I've had several people in my life who have passed. This one being my wife, somebody I lived with day in and day out for almost, 18, 19 years. And then friends for years before that. This is very hard to learn to be here without her. And the good thing is you hang on to those good memories. My wife Sherry was a beautiful soul. And like every human being, was flawed, had her problems. Her and I would fight. Um, we had some serious issues at one point. After my brother died, I had serious issues to the point where we almost lost our marriage because of how I was handling things or not handling things. But we were able to fix it and come back from it. She stuck in there. She was a fighter. She fought for our marriage. And I will be forever grateful for that because I was not in the right frame of mind at the time to make those decisions. This time, because of what I learned before, I feel like I'm handling it better. That's not to say I'm in denial of my grief or that I won't fall apart later. That is just, I'm trying to look at this as rationally as possible while still allowing myself to grieve and feel all of these feelings because I incorporate them into my life, into my being, and learn to move on and not to move on in bitterness or sadness for the rest of my life. I know people who've had great losses that never recover. And I just want to help heal those people. I, I took some training a while back, helping to heal. And I honestly put a lot of it on the back burner for the last few years because I was focusing on my marriage. And now I'm wondering if I did all that, maybe subconsciously, maybe my higher self was telling me to spend every moment I could uh, with my wife because time was short. I don't know. I do know now that I'm in a position where I can reconnect with all of that and move forward because it's still always been a desire of mine. Besides doing these radio shows and doing the my other paranormal work, I almost hate that word anymore. Paranormal work. It's not exactly describing some of the things that I'm going to be researching. Um, I'm going to be working on some documentaries. I'll be doing an upcoming interview for a new television show that's going to be coming out on Amazon sometime later in the year, next year. I can't say any details on it, but I'm kind of going to get off my butt and get back into doing things and being a part of the community. From the spiritual aspect, we sit here and we wonder what happens to our loved ones when they die. There's religion, the religious aspect, uh, there's the spiritualist aspect, there's a whole, all different variations of a theme that talk about life after death, existence after physical death, when we shed these meat suits in this physical form and we transcend. Do I feel that my wife moved on and is still okay? Yes. I did get a sign. Um, it's only been one small sign, but it was significant. I, the day of the funeral, after we left the cemetery, we went and had a repast at a local restaurant with her family and a bunch of family and friends. And then a couple of her cousins who had traveled several hours to get here, they were going to head home. And I said, come stay with me. I've got the room. So they came to spend the night and leave the next day. So I went to make up the guest bedroom. Now, I was in there earlier in the day. There was nothing out of place. I come into the bedroom and my eye is instantly drawn to a quarter, 25-cent US piece, sitting in the middle of the bed. What's amazing and really struck home to me. Now, first of all, this isn't the first time I've experienced quarters. I've been on investigations where I've had quarters materialize out of thin air and drop in the middle of us. Me and other people standing there talking and investigating. Happened a couple of different times. I've heard of this phenomenon happening before with quarters, especially. Always seem to be the favorite because I think they're big and heavy. So here's this quarter laying in the middle of the bed, and I look at it and I'm going, huh. Maybe it was there, but in actually, I know it wasn't there. I previously made up the bed. So no, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. Then I noticed it was tails up and it was a state quarter. They made the edition that had all of the states. Um, and this was tails up and it was for the state of Colorado. Now, that holds particular significance because when I had my breakdown after my brother, um, my wife and I separated for a little while. I left and I went and stayed with family in Colorado. It's always been a sore spot in our relationship even after everything was fixed. My wife hated the state. She made no bones about it because it hurt her so bad. And she wouldn't even say the name of the state. Yet here's this quarter laying on the bed, tails up, plainly showing Colorado. I did take that as a sign that she was there. I think even though she hated it, it was the one way she knew to get my attention. And very, very impressed by that. Can I sit here and tell you without a doubt that it was her? Of course not. Of course not. I choose to believe it until proven otherwise. But I think it wasn't. It was a sign. It was a message. I wonder where she is now. I thought about this a lot. I thought about this with my brother a lot. Now, I've had the pleasure of interviewing many, many different researchers, doctors, people who specialize in near death experiences, afterlife experiences, afterlife communication. And so the one thing that I've always leaned towards is the fact that we travel to the other side. Maybe we'll hang around for a little bit and then we eventually travel to the other side. Most cases. On that other side, you have your life review. You see what you did good, what you may have missed, what you need to work on, if you need to come back for another lifetime. If so, you plan on it and you come back at some point. And remember, we look at it as linear. But on their side, it's not linear because time itself doesn't exist, or all time is happening at once, according to quantum physics. And so who knows where she will be? But the one thing I do feel that happens is since we experience reincarnation, we do live multiple lifetimes. Some people have an issue with that, don't want to believe that. Fine. I'm telling you the way it is from my perspective and what I've learned. And there's enough evidence out there that supports this. On me having my own past life experiences. And I feel that our higher self, the true essence of our spiritual essence, is very advanced, and only a piece of it comes down here, still attached to the whole. Think of it as like a big octopus who sets out a tendril, and that tendril goes into a lifetime. And that tip of the tendril is the actual soul that inhabits the spirit that habits a human body. But yet, like a tether that is still attached to the higher self. And we can connect with that higher self through meditation, through dreams. We can receive messages if we open ourselves to those messages because the wisdom is there. There's a saying that we already know everything we need to know. And that's true, but we have to learn to access it. But we have a lot of it programmed out of us. We don't know what we're supposed to do, what's coming next, how we're to react. It's all in here. Um, in Christianity, they talk about the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. That can be interpreted also from a spiritualist standpoint as mind, body, spirit. The Son being the body, um, the Father being the higher self aspect, the Holy Spirit being the soul aspect that comes from the higher self, the intermediary vessel that carries the information and connects us to our higher selves. And that higher self is connected to what you would call God or the creator force. And we all come from the same force, same place. This is why you hear that we're all connected. Every single one of us, we're all connected. No man is an island. Am I allowed to say man these days? I don't know. How dare I suggest somebody's gender, huh? I'm going to be a little flippant with some some things these days that I don't agree with. I, I'm not going to get political. There's just some things that are just beyond stupid in my mind. And it's stuff that we shouldn't be focused on right now. We should be focused on us and learning to be the best people we can be and loving one another. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. Some of us will learn that lesson, others may not. And for those watching on video, you get to see my new little ghost mug from the Ghost Stop ghost hunting equipment store that I got for Christmas. Like I said, it's early morning, so I'm drinking my coffee to keep awake here. Uh, what else can I talk to you about here? When the spirit travels to the other side, people have reported in near death experiences the tunnel, going through a tunnel, going to the light, and they either meet friends and family, religious figures, people have met Jesus, people have met guides or angels. I think a lot of times, just my own personal opinion, that sometimes whatever we meet, especially when it comes to religious figures or like guides or whatnot, I think we're given images, especially when we're coming back. It's just a near death experience, and we see what we're meant to see, even if it's kind of a deception, but not in a negative way. I think it's the same way that in the UFO phenomenon, when people have been abducted and they have screen memories, they remember events in a certain way. Betty and Barney Hill, the famous 1962 abduction case. When the beings that they first saw that they remembered looked like people wearing military uniforms, I believe it was. It wasn't until under regression that the screen memory was broken through and they could tell that they were gray aliens. I think the same thing happens on a spiritual level. I think in the beginning, until our minds acclimate, our spirits acclimate to the change in the new environment, there's still enough of ourselves with a foothold in the physical world and our physical personalities that transfer over that need some kind of comfort or some kind of instruction where it's necessary to for who whatever entity is greeting us to put on an image, put on a perception. It's part of the orientation process, I believe. um, I talked with there was a friend of Sherry's, her Muay Thai trainer actually, who we were talking. She's very spiritual, and she was telling us about a near-death experience that she had when she was a child. Her and her brother were playing with a ladder on the roof. She fell. It knocked the wind out of her, and she saw herself above her body, and she saw the tunnel and was being pulled up to the tunnel. And she reached a certain point where she saw the tunnel. And at that point, she had a very quick past life review. Her whole life flashed before her eyes. Now, she was only 10 at the time, so not a long life, but still, every single thing that ever happened, good or bad, how she made other people feel, that all was all part of the process. And we take that with us when we go over all of these memories, every single action. This moment I'm doing right now will all show up. Every good feeling, every bad feeling, everybody we've hurt, everybody we've helped. And it's determined at that point, did you accomplish what you set out to accomplish? Did you learn everything that you needed to learn? And if it's necessary, then you plan the next life and then you work out the details on what you would experience on that next life. And that next life could happen on this physical plane, it could happen on another physical plane, it could happen on an alien world, it can happen different dimensions, higher levels of being. We don't, not all lessons have to be learned here on Earth. Um, this is really the big training ground for us. And in a way, I feel that with with my wife passing, that she had learned what she needed to learn here, and she moved on. And I'm here now because, well, I've got a lot more to learn. Or I've got things that I still need to experience and to projects, things to do in my life. And I'm working that out because right now there's a big unknown. They tell you to take it a step at a time. And it's true, you cannot make rash decisions because they're not rational decisions. Sometimes you haven't thought things through. I've already made a few mistakes. And in those mistakes, I've upset some people, which I apologize for. I'm learning as I go. I want to be the best person that I can possibly be. And I know that I haven't been in my life. Uh, of all things, I've had an ego for a long time, thinking I knew things that other people didn't, letting things go to my head. Yeah, I recently posted on one of my social media pages that that's the thing about life. It teaches you how to be humble, especially when it decides to pull the rug out from under you. And you have to admit that you don't know everything. Um, you are here to learn, and you need to take it as humbly as you can, accept what's coming, deal with it. If it's a problem that can be fixed, do it. I've spent a good majority of the last couple of years, thanks to social media, reaching out to old friends that I haven't talked to in 20, 30, 40 years because I can reflect back on things that I have done and how I hurt them. And you can liken it to AA or other similar programs where part of it is making amends. And I've reached out to people and I've apologized for things that I did that a lot of them don't even remember. It wasn't as important to them, I guess, as it was to me because I realized and I felt crappy about it. So, and I'm taking that same attitude now. I've had an overwhelming outpouring of love and support from people all over my life, uh, people close to Sherry, people close to Sherry's family, people I knew not only in the paranormal and spiritual community and people I'm friends with on Facebook, but people I have known for many, many years, going back to high school, going back to my Magic Mountain days when I used to work at Six Flags Magic Mountain. By the way, the greatest damn job I ever had in my life. Pardon none. That was such an awesome job for somebody right out of high school. And I worked there for 7 years into my mid 20s. And, there are ups and downs there, just like there were everywhere. But looking back, oh man, I love that job. And nothing in adult life compares to that in terms of pure satisfaction. I hope to change that because there are things that I need to move forward with now and things I need to do. I know I'm talking a lot about me. It sounds very self-centered and egotistical. And yet, part of me doing the show is cathartic because it's helping me to figure things out, to try to sort my thoughts, to try to plan on just where in the hell I'm going to go from here. I was not planning to be alone or have to move forward with my life alone. And I'm in a unique position where life is wide open. I have, I could go anywhere basically that I want right now, with limited means, but you get the idea. So I'm still trying to figure that out. Part of it may be that I might be doing less of these shows because I am coming back with my partner Irene Allen Block. And starting in mid January, I believe the week of the 18th, we will be coming back to our show, the Paranormal UK radio show, which is the flagship show here on the Paranormal UK radio network. I stepped away a couple months back because, like everything else, I was feeling pulling away from everything that I was involved in. And I was focusing everything on my relationship and my marriage. Which again makes me think in hindsight, maybe my higher self knew this was coming. Maybe it was preparing myself to say, okay, you need to spend every waking moment you can because with your wife, because time is short. You know, in some ways, I regret some things that happened in that because I think I hurt people by stepping away and backing off. I know Irene wasn't thrilled, but Irene is still one of my best friends, and she and I are very close, and we are able to pick things right back up. And she's thrilled that we're able to come back and start the show again. We already have a whole slew of guests all lined up for the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to that because I enjoyed not just interviewing people, but doing these shows solo. I'm no Art Bell. I love Art Bell, by the way. I spend a lot of time listening to his old podcasts. And the more I listen, the more amazed at what a great interviewer he was and show host, and his attitude taking a not just a skeptical but a neutral point of view and allowing guests to come on and talk about things whether he believed in them or not. It was just to have that conversation and get those ideas out there and go in new directions. I last, not this last Sunday because of the Christmas holiday, but the Sunday before, I attended a spiritualist church that's near me for the first time in a very long time. And because I want to reconnect, I want to start reconnecting with spirit in ways that I once was that I haven't been in a while. I want to pick back up my shamanic healing. I want to learn other types of healing. In a meditation several months back, I had the term star medicine come into my being, come into my meditation, and I haven't still have no idea what that is and what that entails. But I do feel it's a form of healing and something that I'll be working with in the future. Don't know what it is, but we'll get there. I got time to figure it out. And I'm continuing my own research into the paranormal, which is going to take some different turns. Not traditional paranormal. I'm very interested these days in areas of high strangeness, uh, places like, just as an example, like Skinwalker Ranch or the Bridgewater Triangle, are places that have a concentration of all sorts of different types of activities because I think they reflect an interdimensional type of phenomenon, which is something I'm very interested in. So I'll be moving forward with that. I plan on getting back into my filmmaking and making documentaries. I did a documentary series about 10 years ago called Paranormal Highways. Whether I resurrect that or come up with something new, I always have a creative streak and I always want to film. And I do have my bachelor's degree in filmmaking, and I've done very little with it over the years, although I've learned a lot. So I can take those skills and move forward. Now we're in the digital age. It's definitely a lot more affordable. Um, so I need to move on. I plan to travel. There are places I want to see that I haven't seen. I'd like to travel to certain areas that have meaning for me. Sedona, Arizona. I love the Southwest, by the way. Uh, do I see myself ever moving from where I'm currently at in New Jersey? I do. I'm in no hurry. I do have a great support system here. I love my wife's family. They love me. They've accepted me wholeheartedly. And let me tell you something. I know people who have issues with their in-laws. Um, People have differences and people have their quirks. So I get it. I feel like one of the luckiest people on the planet to have such wonderful, wonderful in-laws. I'm very close with Sherry's sister and her nieces, Sherry's nieces, and of course her parents have been fantastic through this whole process. We've been working together, trying to make last minute preparations and just being there to support one another. We even celebrated Christmas and we tried to make it as normal as possible. Um, there's once or twice we felt, Sherry's absence was very felt, but we knew she was there in spirit, and we'll continue to move on, and we'll continue to honor her. I will always love my wife, Sherry, and I'm, but at the same time, and no disrespect to her whatsoever, because I think she would agree with this, and from her position now, got to move on with my life. I'll give myself time to grieve, but I'm going to move on with my life. And that's something that everyone who's experienced a loss like this needs to do. Give yourself time to grieve and then pick up the pieces and move forward, constantly moving forward. You can use a example of, let's say, battle, in a war. Okay. It's not one big battle that usually wins a war. It's the smaller battles. You pick up and move forward. You might get knocked back some, but you constantly keep moving forward. You move forward. You advance your position, taking the ground little by little. That's what we have to do here in this life. But it's very important. I can't stress this enough. Be humble and honest with yourself. Admit your mistakes. Don't dwell on them. Don't beat yourself up. I used to do that a lot. I may have mentioned before, as I was a kid, I suffered from clinical depression. Took a long time to find the right medication to regulate me and make me feel like a normal human being. Um, but I still feel these strong emotions. I'm glad it doesn't suppress them. I need to experience it. And then take what I've learned and move forward. Be humble. I want to be a service to others. I do this show. When I first started this particular show, I did it with a certain arrogance, thinking, oh, well, I have all this information. I know this information. I want to impart what I've learned to the audience to listen to, and hopefully help other people learn as I have as I go. And that's still ego. That's still ego. Same back in the day when I first started my paranormal group. I was trying to make us out to be one of the best and well known. And we did become fairly well known, not huge, but I'd go to conferences. People knew who the hell I was, big name people knew who the hell I was and would talk to me. And it's that in itself is a good feeling being a part of that kind of community. A lot of it goes to some of people's heads. You get a television show, you get something that makes you big. Um, and people just focus so much on that. And I think we lose sight of what we're really meant to be doing here. I try to keep my thoughts straight and not ramble so much as I have in the past. I know I'm covering a lot of ground here. And it's mostly to talk about this process of grief, mourning, and moving on and learning. I've learned so much, and I know there's so much I still need to learn. I know I'm very mellow today. I'm very introspective, just turning my thoughts within. But I'm sharing it with you in the hopes that maybe it will touch some people, even if it touches one person. If it makes a difference to somebody, then I've accomplished something. And it's not for my own ego, because I've always just had this desire to want to help people or do something that makes a difference for people, and not always going to be successful at it. And sometimes my ego will get in the way, and I don't mean to. I don't mean to hurt people. And let's be totally honest. I have still hurt people. I have recently reconnected with people. An old friend of mine from many years ago who, has completely different philosophical and religious beliefs from mine. And I always knew that that division was always going to be there. And I thought, well, that's okay. I can handle it. And everything was fine for a while, but then eventually that conversation came up that I knew was going to come up. And I thought I would handle it respectfully and shut up. He has to talk. I thought I would handle it respectfully, and boys and girls, let's just cut to the chase. I blew it. I blew it. I got self-defensive. Um, Ego kicked in a bit. I wound up hurting them again, which I have done in the past. And what makes it worse is I'm the one who reached out to them to reconnect, to try to make amends. And in making amends, I did what I did before. So obviously, I did not learn my lesson. I've apologized to this person. They may or may not accept it. Time will tell. And even if they do accept it, there's always going to be this thing between us that I'd have to figure out how we would move forward and deal with it. So it's a learning process. I don't ever, excuse me, don't ever want to be so egotistical that my music was starting to kick in there. I don't ever want to be so egotistical to think I have all the answers and mansplain to people. I will share what I know. I'll share my knowledge, but I'm open to questions. I'm open to learning more. And that's what I'm going to do. As far as our loved ones who've crossed, there's lots of theories and lots of people have come up with, thoughts on what people do when they're on the other side, because it's just transition. Energy cannot be destroyed, it only changes form. So I think about my wife, my brother, my father, and people who have passed. I I just sit there and sometimes from human perspective wonder what they're doing. What are they involved with right now? Is it anything that I can even come close to my human brain comprehending? And that's something else we have to admit also. There are forces that are beyond our comprehension and we're never meant to know in this lifetime. That sucks because I want to learn. I want to learn a lot. Um, but I will learn what I can. I'll learn what I'm meant to learn and I'll pass on what I'm meant to pass on. So I'll start to wrap this up because I don't want to ramble too much. But for anyone else out there that is going through a loss, uh, I welcome anyone who wants to reach out to me to talk. You can reach me on Facebook. You can reach me by email through my PAUK email address, Mark, M-A-R-K, at paukradio.com. As always, I welcome comments, criticisms, suggestions. I don't know when I'll be back with one of these shows. I'm going to focus on the PAUK radio show for a while. But I think if I have something truly to say on a spiritual level, which we don't really cover as much in that show. Um, God, I love Irene, but for someone with her as strong in her abilities, she's so amazingly grounded. She doesn't like to talk a lot about spiritual or hairy fairy stuff, as she calls it. So that's up to me because that's what I'm interested in. So if I have some more information to bring out, I'll be bringing out these shows once in a while. Uh, in the meantime, again, feel free if you need to reach out to me and we can talk. We have some common ground. I've already had some friends. It's amazing the amount of people who've passed lately. I've had friends who their spouses have passed within the last few months. Other people who've dropped dead, who've lost loved ones. It's almost feels like an epidemic right now. Yeah, I have thoughts on that too. Anyway, we need to be here for each other and not blame and not get angry and learn from this, support each other as a human family and move forward. Let's put all the bullshit behind us. And let's face it, we're steeped in bullshit right now. I feel like I'm living in a clown world. But even that has lessons for us to experience, and we're not the first to have to put up with something like this. Throughout history, civilizations have risen and fallen, and life goes on. This civilization that we have right now could very well fall. People wring their hands and worry about it. If it falls, it falls because nature abhors a vacuum. So when something goes away, it's usually replaced by something else. And our life continues. And that's what we need to do. And what we need to do as a human family is work together to make that next phase as spiritual and positive as possible. So Here we are. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for supporting this show. You've put my show in the top 10 on a number of occasions, usually when I have a good guest. It's not just me rambling. I appreciate all of that. I appreciate everyone who supports the Paranormal UK radio network. The network was recently voted the number one paranormal network by a couple of different media outlets, which is surprising because there's some bigs out there that we've gone up against, and some friends that have big popular shows. But as far as a network goes and a station, we uh, have been rated number one. And I think that's awesome. And I really hope that you all will continue to support us. We'll continue to keep putting out great new programming. We have new shows joining the network right now. We have From My Side of the Crystal Ball with Robert Lindsay Milne just showed us, Dr. Scott Taylor with his show, The Afterlife Files, and we have a few more in the works. So keep watching or listening in any case. And we will continue to do what we can do to make this keep us going and make this the most entertaining and informative process that we can. So thank you again for all tuning in, supporting the show. I will be back at some point with this show, but I will be back in a couple of weeks with a brand new Paranormal UK Radio Network show. Oh, and I do want to give a shout out, and we'll be doing this when we do our first show, to Andy Mercer and Carrie Greenway. Andy, especially, who has stepped up at the station to uh, take over things while I've been gone and dealing with this. He's rocked as a station manager and a producer. Carrie helping him pick up the radio show because Irene also took a break when I took a break. They're going to be going off and doing their own shows after this, but want to thank them for carrying on the PAUK mantle while we were away. And there's more good stuff in the works. Thank you all very much for listening to my ramblings today. I hope you all have a wonderful, happy new year. Let's keep our fingers crossed that 2023 will be a much better year for all of us. And, if we have our struggles, we have our problems, we handle them from the perspective of lessons learned and learn to deal with it and move forward. Keep moving forward, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Johnson, here in Astral Perceptions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I want to wish you all good night, good evening, good morning, as Art Bell used to say, and we will catch you all next time. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.